What's good? What's good? What's good? This is your guy, Tone DeShields II. You guys are locked in on your dose of Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. I appreciate you guys for always locking in on the content. Please make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the show, especially if you're new, right? That's the thing about, when you're trying to grow your channel. You're always trying to invite new people to the fold. You want people to be as comfortable as possible in this ecosystem that you're cultivating. And I'm grateful for my current subscribers for always making new subscribers welcome and also holding them accountable and bringing that hot fire whenever somebody get out of line. I love it. So make sure you guys continue to stay engaged in the content. Please make sure you guys are smashing that like button or subscribe to the show, whether you're new, whether you're old. Just keep that energy flowing. And shout out to my Twitter family, everybody on X. I appreciate you guys for always locking in as well. Please make sure you guys continue to smash the like button. Make sure you guys continue to retweet. Make sure you guys are also subscribed to my YouTube channel as well. I think that's really important, right? We get a lot of traction on X. And I want to make sure all of you guys on X are also following me and subscribe to me on YouTube as well. Regardless, make sure you guys stay locked in on the content. We're always going to have something fun to talk about, whether it ruffles your feathers, whether it gets you excited, whatever it may be. We're always going to try to move the needle here at Chalk It Up Sports. And I'm always grateful to have you guys a part of this thing we're building over here. So enough with the pleasantries. Let's get right into it, y'all. More press conferences, right? More Eagles players sharing their perspective on, Kellen Moore being added and, the offseason program, how they feel physically, the level of competition in the building, right? The first person that spoke today was A.J. Brown. And A.J. Brown probably had the soundbite of the afternoon. And he spoke about a lot, right? He spoke about being in the best shape of his career. He believes that he's currently in his prime, right? And his ultimate goal above all else as it pertains to his conditioning and his peak form, his goal is to be effective on every play rather than just being available on every play. He wants to be effective. And I think that's the key difference between being a top tier player and also being in peak form physically, right? You don't just want to be on the field, right? For every play. You want to be effective on the field for every play. He also thought it was really important for him to get back here early. He was fiending for football, and he wanted to make sure he got back here early enough, especially for rookie training camp, to get those guys comfortable, get them acclimated, and overall just overall instilling confidence in the new guys and the young guys. He takes his leadership role very seriously, and I think he's even taking it even more seriously this season, especially knowing how the beginning of this offseason started for him, where a lot of people questioned his leadership. Even throughout the last couple seasons, right? A lot of people have questioned A.J. Brown's leadership because of his sideline situations that may have come up. And me personally, I think a lot of the time those situations have been misunderstood, and he's been wrongfully accused of being a bad teammate. But if we're being quite frank, A.J. Brown, by action, has always been a pretty good teammate. And I think he's trying to show why he has that C on his chest. And, he sees a lot of competition at that wide receiver 3 spot. There's a lot of people, a ton of people competing for WR3. You got John Ross, Paris Campbell, Aeneas Smith, Johnny Wilson, Joseph Ngata, Jacob Harris, Brenton Covey, Austin Watkins Jr., Shaquan Davis. There's a ton of guys competing for that WR3 spot, yet only one will prevail. But I also think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be in a situation where it's going to be package specific. I don't think there's just going to be one de facto wide receiver 3 or just one single guy they use in the slot. I think it's going to be a situational and a package type of situation. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see not only Paris Campbell make this roster. I wouldn't be surprised if you see John Ross on this roster as well. I honestly think if I had to make a prediction right now, I think the Philadelphia Eagles are probably going to bring maybe 6 receivers going into the season, maybe six or seven wide receivers going into the regular season. I think those guys are going to be A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Paris Campbell, Johnny Wilson, Aeneas Smith, and probably either John Ross or Brenton Covey. I think Brenton Covey may have an edge because of the special team effect. But I think those are the names that we're really taking seriously right now. Unless the Philadelphia Eagles make another move in free agency or make a trade for another wide receiver, I think that's pretty much what the wide receiver room is going to look like when the season starts. But nonetheless, there's a lot of competition at that wide receiver 3 spot that AJ Brown is noticing, and he's seeing a lot of different things from a bunch of different guys, and everyone is making an impact in their own way. So it's going to be up to those guys to really prove who belongs out there. And like I said in my past live streams, right? I think it's going to be important for guys like Paris Campbell, John Ross, guys like that. Force those coaches to make a tough decision, right? Force those coaches to have sleepless nights because they can't figure out who they want on that roster. Do everything in your power. Focus on your own plate, right? This is a dog eat dog league, right? This is the kind of league where no matter what's going on around you, as long as you do your job, as long as you're maximizing your own potential and taking advantage of every opportunity you have, you're going to be on the field. It's just that simple. That's how the NFL works. Unless you got some other things going on the side, and then that's where politics get into it. He also spoke on Kelee Ringo making strides. We've heard a lot about Kelee Ringo having a pretty solid camp. Him and AJ Brown have had some pretty good battles. And he also spoke on Isaiah Rodgers, a player who did miss the entire 2023 season. He's been out of football for about maybe 400 to 500 days. And AJ Brown has made it very clear that Isaiah Rodgers hasn't lost a step. He's a guy that's been making play after play. He's been a high impact player throughout OTAs and mandatory minicamp. He still has that speed. He looks like a guy that hasn't been away from football. And then the reason why we're all here, he spoke about first round pick out of Toledo, the number 1 cornerback in the draft, Quinyon Mitchell, talking that trash, man. And we can just tell by Quinyon Mitchell's demeanor that he's not really a rah-rah guy. He seems like a calm, cool, collected, stoic individual. Doesn't seem like the type of guy to say too much or say too little. He seems like the cornerback version of Devontae Smith, just in terms of how they carry themselves, right? Devontae Smith is a humble beast, a quiet dog with a big bite. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's just I see a lot of core personality traits that we see in Devontae Smith. I see those same traits in Quinyon Mitchell, a guy that doesn't talk too much, but if you get him there, he'll start talking some trash if you get him there. But that's not his goal ultimately, to talk trash. But AJ Brown talked about how him and Quinyon Mitchell have been competing in OTAs and mandatory minicamp, and how, again, Quinyon Mitchell doesn't really talk too much, but there was a moment where I think him and AJ Brown were going, back and forth on the football field, and Quinyon Mitchell told AJ Brown that was a trash ass route, something like that, something to that effect. So I think it's so dope seeing AJ Brown really lean into these young guys and really not only motivate these guys and get these guys confidence on the field, but also I think it's dope that he's challenging these young guys, right? He's challenging guys like Quinyon Mitchell. He's challenging guys like Isaiah Rodgers and Cooper DeJean and Kelee Ringo, right? He's challenging all those guys that are fighting for roster spots, right? He's challenging everybody, because at the end of the day, this is the kind of league where the cream will rise to the top, and you're only as good as the players you go up against. You're only as good as the level of competition you face on a day-to-day basis. One of the first things I said when we drafted Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, right? One of the first things I said was, those guys are going to be ready come week 1, because of this simple fact. They're going up against AJ Brown and Devontae Smith every single day. You can't tell me those guys not going to be ready. You can't convince me that Quinyon Mitchell's not going to be ready to take on top tier wide receiver competition once the season starts. Now, of course, he's going to have to go through his own growing pains, right? He's going to have to go through his own growing pains, and that's unavoidable in the NFL. There's going to be moments where he get burnt. There's going to be moments where he takes a risk and he guesses wrong. It comes with experience. It comes with crawling before you can walk. There's no way to avoid those growing pains. So if Quinyon Mitchell gets beat at one point, I don't want people to lose their minds during the regular season, right? He's a rookie. He's still learning. But as long as we continue to see more good than bad, as long as we continue to see progress every single week, every single drive, every single snap, as long as we continue to see him learning and not making the same mistakes, I think that's going to be the key indicator of the kind of player we have. Also, I think by going up against A.J. Brown, you're going up against arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. I stand on that hill. When you're in that top 5 category at wide receiver, take your pick. I'm not debating with nobody about who's better, who's this, who's that, who's this. Listen, if you're in that top 5 category, take your pick. I'm rolling with A.J. Brown. I'm willing to die on the hill that A.J. Brown is arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. Now, you're going to have people say Justin Jefferson. I'm not going to argue with him, right? You're going to have people say Jamar Chase. I'm not going to argue with him. You're going to hear people say Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm not going to argue with him, right? You're going to hear people say Tyreek Hill. I'm not going to argue. You know, you got so many Cooper Kupp. You're going to see so many people throw names out there. I'm not going to argue with you. I have my guy that I'm rolling with, and it's just that simple. So when it comes to A.J. Brown and Quinyon Mitchell, I love the competition that's brewing in the building. I think every player, everybody on this roster, even the coaches, they know the competition is at an all-time high, and you got to give credit to Howie Roseman for rebuilding or retooling this roster and doing the right thing in the draft and the free agency. He's done an immaculate job, not only adding talent, but also creating and cultivating an ecosystem for competition to brew and for it to stew, right? This is the kind of environment you want in the NFL. Nothing is being handed to anybody, and it's straight like that. I want to give a shout out to my new supporter here, Fat Mac Philly. Thank you so much, Fat Mac Philly, for donating to the channel, my friend. I really appreciate the love, appreciate the support. I love the name, by the way, Fat Mac. I like that. He donated to the show, and I don't take that for granted, you guys. You guys already know. So what I'm going to do for my man Fat Mac, I'm going to give my man a wrench. Although he's new to the channel, he did invest in me, and he's taking a chance on me. So I want to make sure his investment is not in vain. So Fat Mac, we're going to bless you with a wrench. And we're going to do it straight like that, my guy. So I hope you're here, not just for a good time. I hope you're here for a long time, my guy. Thank you so much for donating to the channel. It means a lot to me. But yeah, man, Quinyon Mitchell, A.J. Brown, that's something that we're going to have to watch throughout the offseason, throughout mandatory minicamp, training camp, things of that nature. There's no better farm system to be in if you're Quinyon Mitchell, if you're Cooper DeJean, if you're Kelly Ringo, so on and so forth. There's no better farm system to be in. And I think Quinyon Mitchell's in good hands. I know A.J. Brown's going to make sure he's right. I know Devontae Smith's going to make sure them guys are right and ready to play. This is what you want. This is what you want. You want guys getting confident. You want guys getting acclimated to the scenery, to the city, to their team, right? This is the kind of vibe you want. It's just that simple. So yeah, I really loved what A.J. Brown had to say about that. A.J. Brown, he's starting to really assert himself as a leader on this team, and that's the kind of vibe you want. If you ask me, you don't want a guy who's just coming here, clocking in, clocking out, getting his money, and simply just comfortable with getting his numbers. A.J. Brown wants more than his numbers. He wants more than just the money. The money is great, obviously. I can imagine, right? The stats are great, right? That's how he gets paid. But I think above all else, I think A.J. Brown is entering that phase where he wants to win, and he doesn't just want to win regular season games. A.J. Brown wants to win big, and I think A.J. Brown is proving that with the work ethic. I think A.J. Brown is proving that with how he's acclimated himself with the rookies, with the young guys, with the new players. The way he's talking to his press conferences, he's keeping things short and simple to the point. And he just has this aura or this essence about him of being the adult in the room while still know how to have fun, right? He's literally in the prime of his career. And A.J. Brown, in my opinion, I think there's another level he could take it to. We'll see, though. We'll see. Shout out to Fat Mac again, man. Donated again to the channel. Fat Mac, I appreciate you, my man. I don't take it for granted. He says, "No worries, my brother. Thank you, man. That means a lot to me." Make sure you keep it locked. Make sure you tell a friend about the channel. Make sure you let people know this is how we giving it up here, man. I'm always going to give you guys my honest opinion. Always going to give you guys my honest take. I'm never going to pull back. I'm never going to hold back. I'm going to always give you guys my raw, unfiltered opinion while still weaving in that optimism, because at the end of the day, I'm still a supporter of the Philadelphia Eagles. But at the same time, I'm going to hold this organization accountable, because as spectators of the sport, as supporters of the team, being the football enthusiasts that we are, we spend a lot of money on this organization, be it on the merchandise, jerseys, koozies, thermoses, the keychains, the hats, all the gear that you could possibly think of. We spend a lot of money on this sports memorabilia, right? We spend a lot of money on parking, going to these games. Parking is like $30-$40 now. We spend a ton of money on concessions, right? A damn hot dog or a damn water bottle costs like $6, $7, $8, right? You can't get a bucket of French fries for less than $10 at these stadiums. So we spend a lot of money with these organizations. The tickets, right? Let's not get me started on that. There's a ton of money being thrown around. We invest in the Autism Foundation as well as fans. There's a ton of things that we do as fans, as supporters of not only the NFL, but as the Philadelphia Eagles. We invest a lot of our time, a lot of our money, a lot of our emotions into this organization. So I think it's only right that we should be able to hold our respective organizations accountable. That's just my mindset. But nonetheless, yeah, man, we're in a good space. And thank you again, Fat Mac, for donating $4.99 to the show, man. Doesn't go unnoticed, my guy. I really appreciate you. But I don't have memberships quite yet, but we do got some giveaways coming up. Breaking news for everybody just coming into the live stream. We do got some giveaways coming up. I got a ton of stuff in the corner of my office right here, just ready to be given away. We're going to start our giveaways in July. Once as we get closer to training camp, we're not going to start giveaways in June. We're going to start giveaways sometime in July, right? That's the goal. The goal is to get giveaways going sometime midway through July as we get closer to training camp. I want to kind of save it for as we get closer to the season. I want to get you guys some gear, going into the NFL season. So we're going. So I have a ton of stuff in this corner right here to be given away. Hats, gloves, you know what I mean, things like that. I think I got shirts over there, if I'm not mistaken. I think I mainly got hats and stuff. So got a bunch of hats and Eagles stuff, Philly stuff to give away to you guys starting next month. Literally right here in the corner of my office. I'm staring right at it, and I'm really excited to get that going. But we're going to let that settle. We're going to let that simmer a little bit. We're not going to take that pot off the stove. We still got to let that cook and marinate, because what I'm doing is, and also shout out to my father. Right, my father has been really hands-on with helping me build this channel here. He's been doing a lot of investing in me. He's been helping me stockpile a ton of merchandise so we can do a bunch of giveaways and really bless you guys, because you guys have really been blessing Chalk It Up Sports. You guys have been blessing me, and I don't take you guys for granted. Guys like Fat Mac donating over $5, around $6 to the channel. I mean, you got to be able to pay that forward, not only with your time, but also with letting people know that, hey, I see you, I feel you, and we're gonna do some giveaways later on in July. So just make sure you guys keep it locked on that. And you never know, maybe I may start a little sooner than that, but just make sure you guys are tuned in throughout the week on Chalk It Up Sports. I got a ton of stuff to give away to you guys. We're going to do like raffles and stuff like that. Code words, the mystery word, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to give you guys my email. I'm going to give you guys the Chalk It Up Sports email, so you guys can email, your address and things like that, so you can enter to win the merchandise. We got a lot of stuff coming up on Chalk It Up Sports. So just make sure you guys keep it locked, man. The content is only going to get better. I want to do some quick shout outs though before we get too deeper to the content, right? Shout out to Chad Crawford, Donald Roan, Flexing and Stepping, Eagle Slayer 95, Fat Mac Philly, the newcomer, Mansa Musa, Kyle Kokorski, T. Jones, my brother, the OG, Pro Fan Talk. Make sure you guys go subscribe to Pro Fan Talk PFT. He does an amazing job covering not only the Philadelphia Eagles, he's covering the WNBA. He's covering all things sports. He does an amazing job just talking sports, and most notably the Philadelphia Eagles. So shout out to my man, Pro Fan Talk. Also, I want to give a shout out to Donnie 4, my OG, S. Blunt, Pretty Mimi, what's going on? Little G Griffith, Green Man Miller, KGK, 0911, JDM Life, Mac Main. Thank you guys so much. Richard Jackson was good. Thank y'all so much for always locking in on the show. Just had to get my shout outs out the way. So yeah, again, Quinyon Mitchell talking trash to AJ Brown. I love it. AJ Brown, obviously, he appreciates it as well. He was having fun with it. And I think the biggest thing he said was the fact that, okay, RQ, you took that first step. You're talking it. Now it's time to walk it, right? And he has no doubt that Quinyon Mitchell will be able to do that, but he knows that this is a league where you have to prove yourself. So just make sure that whatever you say, you can definitely back it up. And I think Quinyon Mitchell is on his way there. We're going to talk about some practice notes from mandatory minicamp in a little bit, but I definitely want to touch on these. I definitely want to touch on the press conference and what various players had to say, anything notable. But yeah, shout out to AJ Brown, shout out to Quinyon Mitchell for setting the tone in mandatory minicamp, and also shout out to Quinyon Mitchell for stepping out on that ledge and exercising that confidence and being that humble beast, that confident rookie, ready to go out there and prove why he belongs in the NFL, ready to go out there and prove why he's the best cornerback in the NFL draft, in the 2024 NFL draft, that is, and also ready to prove why Toledo should be considered um, a, a program that you should look to find top tier players. So there's a lot on Quinyon Mitchell's back right now, right? There's a lot riding on his success. Obviously, as fans, we want Quinyon Mitchell to be the best player he can be. We want Quinyon Mitchell to take his potential to the highest level. We want Quinyon Mitchell to be a Pro Bowler, a future All Pro. We want Quinyon Mitchell to really prove why he was drafted where he was drafted. But beyond just that, I think he has the pressure of not only Philadelphia, he has the pressure of the University of Toledo, right? That Toledo program, I believe he's the highest drafted defensive player out of Toledo, or he's the highest draft pick to come out of Toledo. And I don't know if I'm quoting that right, but he was drafted very high out of Toledo, and he had the option of going to any program in the Power Five, right? He could have went to Alabama, could have went to Georgia, could have went to LSU, could have went to Auburn, could have went to Texas A&M, could have went to Texas, could have went to Clemson. He had his pick of the litter. He could have went to any college he want. Nick Saban said it himself on national television that he was trying to get Quinyon Mitchell to decommit from Toledo and come over to Alabama, but lo and behold, Quinyon Mitchell decided to stay at Toledo, and he decided to stay with the people who believed in him in the first place. So got to give a lot of credit for Quinyon Mitchell for having that confidence in his ability and believing that he was going to get drafted no matter where he was at. And he believed that Toledo was where he was supposed to be. And like Mr. 610 said, right, he's a Florida guy. He's a Florida boy. He was raised just outside of Gainesville. I can't remember the exact town. It's a very small town, about 3,000 people, but he was raised just outside of Gainesville. And you're right, Mr. 610. Them Florida boys, they take football seriously. It's crazy how a kid from Florida makes his way all the way to Toledo, but we know his situation. The grades prevented him from going to one of those top programs, and Toledo was the program that never gave up on him. Was the program that always stayed on top of his grades, always stayed on top of his development and his progression as a teenager. And he decided to commit to Toledo because they committed to him so early. So I respect his move. And I respect the loyalty that that Quinyon Mitchell displayed, right? So like I said, he has a ton of pressure, not only from the Philadelphia fan base, but he has pressure because he's carrying that Toledo program on his back. And I think he's going to do that with flying colors. I think he's really going to shock the world and really show why he was the best cornerback in the draft and why he was taking over a guy like Terrion Arnold, who I think is going to be a good player, by the way. But I think Quinyon Mitchell, again, has a lot to prove. So that's pretty much how I'm looking at it, right? Hold on one second. This guy anti right now. Anyway, Quinyon Mitchell, like I said, he's going to prove why he was the guy. And I love the confidence in which he's playing with. I love the confidence of him just going in and going right at AJ Brown. I think it's dope. I think it's cool to see. All right, moving on though, right? Moving on, Brandon Graham spoke as well. Jordan Mailata spoke. Dallas Goedert spoke. Keely Ringo spoke as well. And Devin White also spoke. So I think we have a lot to break down what those guys had to say. Flexing and Stepping said, what's the dog's name? So my dog's name is Loki. If you guys are fans of the MCU, if you guys are comic book fans, if you guys are fans of the Thor storylines, we named him Loki, the god of mischief. So, yep, that's my dog's name. He's a mini Dachshund. It's my little man. Richard Jackson said, I love what BG had to say about coaching. I love that you brought that up, Richard, because we're going to get right into that. You know, BG says something that really stood out to me. He spoke about how, you know, Vic Fangio's system is allowing players to play fast and really display their instincts and their athleticism, right? The Vic Fangio system so far is allowing guys to really showcase their raw athletic gifts. You know, he gave a lot of credit to Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter for coming into training camp or coming into OTAs and mandatory minicamp prepared, ready to prove themselves, ready to take their games to the next level. And the most notable thing he said was the fact that, you know, last year, he think the biggest problem was that they had he doesn't believe they had the right coaches. He didn't believe that they had the right coaches in the right positions in 2023, and that no one really was on the same page on a consistent basis. And it really showed itself not only throughout the season, but it showed itself in that final game in the playoffs. So, you know, BG, you know, being the veteran that he is, you know, you give BG that license to make that observation, right? You know, you don't go at or you don't criticize or you don't nitpick a guy like BG for making that observation. He's the veteran in the building. He's the longest tenured Eagle right now, and you have to take what he says seriously. You know, he's somebody the organization trusts. He's somebody that the fan base trusts. He's somebody that his teammates trust, and you know, you gotta you gotta take that seriously. And I would tend to agree with him, right? If you think about that coaching staff last year, and particularly on the defensive side, I mean, you had Sean Desai, a guy that the Philadelphia Eagles never believed in the first place, and then you decided to take his job from him. What, week 12, week 13? You decided to take his job from him, and then you give it to Matt Patricia, a guy that you brought in, you know, during the offseason as a consultant or as some defensive assistant, you know, a guy that high profile. You don't bring in a guy like that and you expect him to just take a back seat. I don't think that was I thought that was a move that immediately undermined Sean Desai before the season even started. I never believed in that Matt Patricia move. The moment it happened, the first thing I said to myself was, "Oh, they're hedging their bet." And it was never a good look from the beginning. And when you change DCs mid-season like that, and you're that close to the playoffs, you can't expect Matt Patricia to come in and just make things shake. You can't expect the defense to all of a sudden turn over a new leaf. These guys have already installed a certain level of communication, a certain level of terminology, and so on and so forth, and tendencies. And you know, you just can't flip your defense on its head like that. And it was a knee jerk reaction. It was an overreaction. And it's the kind of move that really sets your team back, and it forces your players to lose trust in their coaching staff. Hence why the Philadelphia Eagles probably felt like they needed to overhaul that coaching staff, in particular on the defensive side. You bring in Vic Fangio as your new DC, a guy who has a plethora of experience, so much experience. He could forget more football than I can remember, right? So you got to give credit to Vic Fangio for being the football mind that he is. You bring in Bobby King to coach your linebackers. You bring in Christian Parker to coach your DBs. You bring in Clint Hurt, a guy with experience to coach your defensive line. You know, they completely overhauled that defensive staff, and for good reason. For good reason. Hopefully, this is the kind of situation where everything pans out. Also, I want to give a shout out to my X family. Thank you guys so much for locking in on X. We got 36 people tuned in on X. We had 54 people tuned in on YouTube. You guys are awesome. Make sure you guys keep smashing that like button. Make sure you guys run it up. We got to make sure them likes match the viewership. So make sure you guys continue to smash that like button. That like button is currency. That like button is the lifeblood of the channel. The more you guys hit that like button, the more consistent you are with that, the more YouTube is going to push the content, and the more we're going to have newcomers to the channel, like my man Fat Mac Philly, right? Fat Mac is a newcomer to the show, and he already made an investment in his first visit here, right? So that's a guy that's really making it very clear that he's here to stay. So if you guys keep hitting that like button, we're going to have newcomers every single day, like my man Fat Mac here, and we're going to continue to grow this community. So make sure you guys are on the right side of history. But yeah, going back to the content, right? Moving on, to Jordan Mailata. Jordan Mailata, he spoke as well. Jordan Mailata, he spoke a lot about, stepping into that leadership role, and how him and Landon understood from the very beginning that they were coming into a situation where there was a ton of players who were establishing a culture. He named all the guys that came before him: Jason Peters, Brandon Brooks, Isaac Seumalo, Jason Kelsey, guys like that, Lane Johnson. You know, a culture was installed here, and he believes it's his responsibility, along with Landon Dickerson. He believes that it's both their responsibilities to make sure that culture is maintained, and they also imprint their own brand of leadership on the organization and on the team, so they can be trusted, and so they can begin to maintain that culture, and maybe even install their own version of what that culture is, right? I trust Jordan Mailata. I trust his mentality. I trust his commitment to not only to his craft, but I trust his commitment and his love for the teammates. I trust his work ethic. For a guy to come from rugby in Australia and completely transform his body, completely transform the way he processes movement, and learning the game from top to bottom, taking his footwork and his hand usage and his overall football acumen, taking that to another level. That's something you have to give credit to. A guy who takes that kind of leap of faith, a guy who makes that ultimate transition, a guy who didn't even know how to put on shoulder pads, didn't know how to put the helmet on. You got to give credit to a guy like Jordan Mailata for coming as far as he did, already being on his third contract with the Philadelphia Eagles, and being a top 5 paid left tackle, and easily being a top 5 left tackle in this league. I think this is going to be a big season for Jordan Mailata and a big season for Landon Dickerson. Both those guys are getting paid top 5 money at their respective positions. I think Landon Dickerson and Jordan Mailata have the potential, have all the tools, have everything at their disposal to be able to have Pro Bowl and or All-Pro, first team All-Pro season. And even if it's second team All-Pro, I count all All-Pros, right? I don't care if it's first team, second team. I'm counting that, because that means you were top 2 at your position. I don't think we give enough credit to second team All-Pros, or I don't think league circles or even mass media gives enough credit to second team All-Pro. In the NBA, we give a lot of credit to not only first team All-NBA, we give a ton of credit to second team All-NBA and third team All-NBA. We give a ton of credit to first team All-Rookie and second team All-Rookie. We give a ton of credit and a ton of love to first team defense and second team and a second team All-NBA defense. The NBA does a great job at showcasing all those different tiers of top players in the league, because it's hard to achieve those goals, and also there's a ton of money to be earned that's attached to being first team All-NBA or second or third team, and so on and so forth, right? I think we need to shine more light as an overall culture in football on second team All-Pros, because in my opinion, it's just as hard to make second team All-Pro as it is to make first team All-Pro. If you're first team All-Pro or second team All-Pro, that means you were top 2 at your position in the NFL. That's not easy to do. That's not easy to do in any capacity. So we need to show more love to second team All-Pros. And I think this is going to be a big season for Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson, whether they're Pro Bowlers or first or second team All-Pros. I think they can get it done. On top of that, right, Jordan Mailata also spoke on Mekhi Becton. Mekhi Becton was brought in from the New York Jets. He was a free agent, and the Philadelphia Eagles decided to take a chance on him. Remember, Mekhi Becton, if I'm not mistaken, I want to make sure I got my information right here. Mekhi Becton is a former first-round pick. He was drafted. Give me 1 second here, you guys. He was drafted in the first round by the New York Jets. He has 5 years of NFL experience, and he has a lot of size, right? He's 6'7", 363 pounds, and already Jordan Mailata is noticing the strides he's making, not only at right tackle, but also the strides he's making at right guard. At first, I didn't think Mekhi Becton would be suitable to play right guard. But this is me forgetting who we have in the building, right? This is me overthinking the situation. I was of the mindset that maybe Mekhi Becton, from a size perspective, he's a little too tall for that guard position. But if you're in a Jeff Stoutland offensive line room, you're getting cross-trained no matter what your size is, no matter what your height is, unless it's too drastic, you're going to get cross-trained. No matter what position you might get cross-trained at right tackle. If you're a right tackle that's athletic enough and talented enough, you're going to get cross-trained at guard. So Mailata gave a lot of credit to Mekhi Becton for coming in shape, being a team guy, coming in just being a sponge. Jordan Mailata said, look, we know he can play tackle. That's not a question. When you watch the tape, Mekhi Becton knows what he's doing out there. He's just dealt with injuries at the early section of his career, and he's had a hard time staying on the football field consistently. And it's also led to him struggling to string together strong outings at right tackle with the New York Jets. But again, he can play right tackle. When Mekhi Becton is healthy, we've seen him play at a high level. And now, with Mekhi Becton being in Philly, he has an opportunity to, change the narrative, reset his career. He has the opportunity to play behind a guy like Lane Johnson. He can learn a ton from Lane Johnson, like how to take care of your body, taking his game to the next level. And you never know what Mekhi Becton's future may hold at that right tackle spot, right? You just never do. Anything can happen. If Lane Johnson decides to call it quits after this season, I don't know if he will or not. I think it remains to be seen. Anything can happen that could change that trajectory, but you never know. You never know what the future may hold. Maybe Mekhi Becton, if he can prove that he can stay healthy, if he can continue to make those strides as an NFL athlete, maybe Mekhi Becton could be the future at right tackle, maybe for a few years or so. You never really know how things may go. But as of right now, Mekhi Becton is only 25 years old, you guys. 25 years old, with 5 years of NFL experience. And like I said, he's battled a lot of injuries in the early part of his career. But maybe this can be an opportunity for him in Philadelphia to get healthy again. He doesn't have to play full-time reps at right tackle, especially with Lane Johnson and Tyler Steen being in front of him at that right tackle and right guard spot. Maybe this can be a moment where he can just completely change the narrative, just hit the reset button on his career. And maybe that extra season of just getting his body right, playing right tackle in a limited capacity throughout the season. Maybe we don't even have to see him throughout the regular season because Lane Johnson just has a completely clean bill of health. You never know. But God forbid Lane Johnson does go down, right, for a week or 2 weeks or even 3 weeks. God forbid. I feel totally comfortable having a guy like Mekhi Becton at right tackle filling in for Lane Johnson for at least 2 to 3 weeks. I do not mind that at all. I think that's a good situation to be in. And again, God forbid Lane Johnson gets hurt. God forbid. That's the last thing about to happen. But if he does, if he tweaks an ankle, if he tweaks anything and the Eagles want to keep him out for maybe a week or two as a precautionary, you still have a guy like Mekhi Becton with that skill set, with that size, with that athleticism, with that experience, and having a guy like Jeff Stoutland preparing him and learning behind Lane Johnson and learning next to Jordan Mailata, guys like that. I think Mekhi Becton is in a prime situation, and I think the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line is in a prime situation as well. And I think Jordan Mailata knows that. Moving on, Dallas Goedert also spoke. Dallas Goedert, he spoke a lot about, just making sure, he gets his body right, being able to play the entire season. We speak a lot about Dallas Goedert's health. I know I do. And I think Dallas Goedert hasn't really gotten a fair shake when it comes to his health over the past couple seasons. He's always had that freak injury that has had him out for 4 or 5 weeks or maybe 6 weeks, something like that. And it's really been unfortunate because I think it's just always happening when he's starting to hit his stride throughout the regular season. And I've been hard on Dallas Goedert from from a health perspective because I think the Philadelphia Eagles, although Dallas Goedert is an extremely talented player and he's the kind of player that you want on your team, I don't know if he has necessarily lived up to that contract. He's getting paid top 5 or top 6 money at his position as well. And I don't know if I can say definitively or with the absolute or with absolute confidence that Dallas Goedert has truly played up to that contract. Nonetheless, he's here and he's healthy now. And he's still, in my opinion, one of the most talented tight ends in the NFL. He's the kind of guy that you want on your roster. Now, if he can stay healthy, that just takes everything to another level. And with him playing, with him playing with AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, he's going to have plenty he's going to have plenty space to do his thing. It's just a matter of him taking advantage of the opportunities. He spoke about how, all he cares about is winning. He doesn't care, if AJ Brown or Devontae get the bulk of the, if they get the bulk of the targets. He doesn't care about that. He wants to win football games. But I think at the same time, he wants to have an impact on winning. He wants to have an impact on game days. So I appreciate him being humble and saying the politically correct comment. But I think he's a guy that still wants to get his fair shake as well during the games. He wants to get his fair share of targets. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to find a way to get him involved. He's too talented to not have him touch the ball. He even spoke about how Kellen Moore is having a really good impact on the direction of the offense. He was saying Kellen Moore has done a good job in mixing in some of the old stuff that they do really, really well, while also implementing and installing new things that can take their offense to another level, which can lead to more creative play calling. I think Kellen Moore is doing a great job getting the tight ends the ball, right? Dallas Goedert said, they've been really getting the quick game going a lot in his offense. And I think that's something that's been missing, right? As much as we love Jalen Hurts and as much as we love what we saw from this team over the past couple seasons, I think the one thing that has been missing from the passing game has been the quick game. Getting the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands fast. And Jalen Hurts, he's typically the guy that holds onto the ball because he can always make something happen. You make something happen inside or outside of the pocket. But too often last year, you saw too many long developing routes. It felt like it took forever for every Eagles wide receiver route to develop, right? I think that was the problem last year. It just took too long for these routes to develop, and also the routes weren't even really that complex or they weren't really that creative. So I think Kellen Moore is bringing a lot to the table as far as the quick game, getting the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands fast, and I think that's why we're seeing some of the growing pains that we're hearing about when it comes to Jalen Hurts right now. Through OTAs and mandatory minicamp. I know a lot of people are ready to jump out the window because Jalen Hurts, he threw a pick in practice or whatever. I would much rather him get the mistakes out of the way now. You have a new coordinator. You're being asked to do things that you probably didn't do before. He's being challenged. The Eagles also have better DBs in the building. So we need to look at it as a positive rather than a negative, right? It's easy for me to say, "Oh, you guys, Jalen Hurts, I don't know about him." It's easy to jump out the window on June 5th, right? It's easy to just say, "Oh man, why is Jalen Hurts sucking ass?" It's easy to say that, right? But the reality is the DBs have gotten better. You've gotten younger at the position. Guys are more athletic. Uh, guys are competing at a high level. Guys are trying to prove themselves. And Jalen Hurts has a new OC. He's being asked to do new things. They're asking him to get the ball out of his hands faster. He's being challenged. And I'd rather him get this stuff out of the way now than we'll be talking about this in the regular season, right? So let's pump the brakes. Let's be modest about the situation and try to look at it for what it is and look at it for the positives we can take out of it instead of trying to, undercut the player and question whether or not he's validated in, the pay. He maybe question why he is the starting quarterback. We don't need to do that, right? Let's just focus on what we can take from it, and that is he's working out the kinks. He's knocking the rust off. He's learning a new system with Kellen Moore. He's being asked to do different things. They're asking him to get the ball out of his hands faster, and also the DB room got better. You got guys that are talented in that DB room now. You got guys on defense that are trying to prove themselves. Like, I'm more so impressed that the defense is making the plays. That's what I'm talking about. Like, I'm more impressed with the defense being as impactful as they've been. That's my mindset, right? And they said Jalen Hurts, um he's been doing very well with the quick game, but there's been a little bit of a hitch when it comes to passes over 20 yards, right? But again, they're working on a lot of basic things. They're doing a lot of installs. Most of that stuff is communication based, right? Most of those picks have been maybe overthrow or miscommunication. And honestly, again, just giving credit to the defense, man. The defense has been making plays. You've heard word about DBs diving for the deflection, diving for the interception. Guys like Isaiah Rodgers, Reed Blankenship. I mean, Kelly Ringo, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper. Like you hear so much about these guys just competing at a high level in that DB room. We got to give credible credit is due to that side of the ball. And like Eagle Slayer said, we're talking about practice. Let him make these mistakes now, and we ain't got to worry about it later when the season starts. Remember last year last year in training camp or preseason, he didn't throw any picks, right? And all of a sudden, we were like, oh, he's so sharp. And then when the season starts, now he started throwing picks. He had a career high pick. So I'd much rather him get that stuff out of the way now. I'm not even tripping about Jalen Hurts. I think he's going to be okay when it's all said and done. And then also Dallas Goedert spoke on Grant Calcaterra, looking smoother, healthier, just looking more confident in his role. He's saying the tight end room is in good hands. Transitioning over to Kelly Ringo. I really loved what Kelly Ringo had to say because he just seems like a more confident player, a more poised player as well. He spoke a lot about how the biggest transition for him was just the game slowing down and also him just being more patient, right? He feels like that's been the biggest improvement in his game, right? The footwork and his patience and feeling more confident in his ability and just having that year of experience under his belt. That's the biggest takeaway from what Kelly Ringo was talking about, how he's learning a ton from guys like Darius Slay, learning a ton from guys like AJ Brown. Like I said, AJ Brown is taking these guys under his wing. AJ Brown is making it a mission to make sure all these guys are ready when the season starts. None of these guys want to go through what they went through last year. Last year was a shit show in the second half of the season. And if we're being honest, the whole season was an emotional roller coaster. Every single week, we were pulling our hair out. Every single week, we were nervous about this team dropping the ball and just not really playing seamless or synonymous football. It just seemed like everything was a struggle, even on offense and on defense. It just seemed like everything was a struggle. The smoothest part of the team, honestly, was on special teams. So, I think it's so dope that Kelly Ringo is challenging AJ Brown, and AJ Brown is taking notice in the strides Kelly Ringo is making. And also, Kelly Ringo spoke on the high level of competition in the building. He knows that, look, they drafted Cooper DeJean, they drafted Quinyon Mitchell. He doesn't take it as a slight, but I'm sure behind closed doors, he looks at it as an opportunity for him to get better, and he knows he's going to have a steeper hill to climb just to get on that football field. And I think he respects the game. I think he respects the competition. He understands that this is a game where you got to prove yourself day in and day out. So I like what Kelly Ringo had to say. He appreciates the competition. He knows everything is up for grabs and everybody's trying to prove something. And this level of competition, this high level of competition, is only going to bring the best out of everybody. Transitioning to the last guy that spoke, Devin White. I'm really glad Devin White spoke. I've been looking forward to Devin White speaking. He spoke a lot about Vic Fangio and how he's really taking to what Vic Fangio is installing. He spoke about how Vic Fangio, his mission is to throw a lot of different things at the defensive personnel and just find out what sticks, find out who can grasp the concepts the quickest, and who can really make the impacts with what they're learning from Vic Fangio. And also, by challenging these guys, Vic Fangio was creating an environment where there's going to be a higher level of accountability. Guys are taking their craft serious. Guys are taking their studies of the playbook more serious. I think overall, the organization, the personnel, just sees that this is a big year for everybody involved. Devin White, he wasn't on his team last year, but this is a big season for him because he's on a 1-year contract and he's trying to prove why he should be considered one of the more respected linebackers in the NFL. And he felt like last season his biggest issue was that he was too focused on the business, right? He spent too much time focusing on being a lawyer instead of being a football player. And that began to affect him on the football field. That was the biggest takeaway I got from Devin White, that he wasn't really too focused on football like he should have been last season. He was too focused on the business and trying to prove that he deserved the money that he should have got instead of just focusing on football and letting the chips fall where they may. So now he looks at his time in Philadelphia as a breath of fresh air. Um, he looks at he didn't necessarily think that he needed a change of scenery, but he's grateful for the change of scenery because it just gives him an opportunity to prove himself all over again. He can start from ground zero, and he's in a situation where he's with a team that wants to win, a winning culture, a winning organization, super talented personnel. He's going to be competing every single day. Nothing's going to be handed to him, and I think that's the mindset. That's the culture that's being installed on this Philadelphia Eagles team. Um, I think overall though, I really like what I've been hearing these past handful of days from not only the coaches but from the personnel. The biggest theme that I've gotten from these guys is that everybody is trying to prove themselves. Everybody knows the competition is boiling over. Everybody knows that nothing is being given. Everything has to be earned. And what you're seeing also is you're seeing a ton of accountability. You're seeing a large amount of accountability being dispersed amongst the players. Guys are taking it upon themselves to make sure they bring along the young guys. Like I said, AJ Brown is taking on the challenge of Quinyon Mitchell and Keely Ringo, Isaiah Rodgers, making sure all those young guys, all those new guys are ready to go when the season starts. Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson, taking Mekhi Becton, under their wing, Cam Jurgens under their wing, Tyler Steen, Trevor Keegan, Dylan McMahon, Sewell Petta, just having all those younger guys, Matt Hennessy, all those guys, they're just making it a point to make sure all the new guys and all the young guys are just taking everything in. Everybody's competing at a high level. The DB room competition is boiling. The linebacker room, the competition is boiling. The defensive line, like BG said, he's loved what he's seeing from JD. He loves what he's seeing from JC. The competition is boiling over all across the defense and even on the offense side of the ball. Paris Campbell, John Ross, Justin Ngata, Anaya Smith, Johnny Wilson. There's a ton of competition. Brenton Covey, competition all over the board. Grant Calcaterra, Albert O, competition all across the board. The offensive line, the running back room, Will Shipley. He's going to want to prove himself, why he deserves to make this roster, why he deserves to maybe be RB2 behind Saquon Barkley. Even Kenny Gainwell is probably trying to prove himself because he's in a contract year. So this is a big season for all parties involved, and it's going to be really exciting to see. I'm going to give a shout out to my man Ezra Blunt for donating $1.99 to the channel, my man. I appreciate you, Ezra Blunt. I don't want you to think I forgot about your investment, my friend. You invest in the network every single day, and I do not take that for granted, my guy. He says Hurts is thinking right now, practice and reps. Absolutely. That's all it is. Hurts is thinking right now. And eventually it's going to come to a point where he's just reading and reacting, right? He's learning. These growing pains is what you want. I want to see the player making a mistake and learning it, right? I don't want any player just having a yellow brick road to walk down. I want all these players to have trials and tribulations. I want all these guys to go through setbacks and get backs. You know what I mean? I want them to have come downs and come ups. I want all these guys to get all the mistakes out of their system. I want them to learn the hard way, right? I don't believe in paving a yellow brick road for anybody. I think everybody needs to face some level of adversity. Somebody and everybody needs to face challenges, especially when they're learning something new. Growing up when I was younger, I used to try to avoid taking risk. I used to try to avoid change or I used to try to avoid anything that would upset any momentum that I would have, even if it probably could be for my betterment. I'm at a point in my life where I'm ready and willing to take on any challenge thrown my way. I've matured. I think deeper. I think more intuitively. I'm more self-reflective, and I'm in a place now where I don't run from any challenge. I don't run from any risk. I'm always going for gold. I'm always betting big. I'm always betting big, and I'm always betting on black. You get what I'm saying? So I'm I'm rolling with the growing pains that Jalen Hurts is going through right now, especially with a new OC. This will be his third OC since being in the NFL. Started with Shane Steichen, had Brian Johnson, and now Kellen Moore, his third OC since being in the NFL. That's not something that's easy to overcome, but he's a veteran now. He's a young veteran. Jalen Hurts is entering year 5 as a pro. He's entering year 4 as a starter in the NFL, and he's entering the first season of that new contract taking in full effect. So I think Jalen Hurts is going to be okay. I'm not stressing about it at all. Besides, it's June 5th. Why stress? Why trip about it? Want to do some quick shout outs real quick. Thank you again, S. Blunt. Shout out to my man Kyle Kokorski. Shout out to Achilles Gaming, Brian Biding, Brown Sugar 22, Prince Swayze, MC, Bang Eagles Bang, Bruce Banner, Eagle Slayer, S. Blunt, JDM Life, Fitness Warrior, Curly Green. Who else we got here, man? My man Coach Corey was good, man. I hope business is booming. My man Flexing and Stepping. Appreciate y'all for being here. Jason A-Team, Steve Ike, Ivan Mims, Pro Fan Talk. Thank y'all so much, man, for being a part of the show. Mac Main, Travis Riken, Richard Jackson, Mr. 610, Fat Mac Philly, Chad Crawford, Donald Roan. Appreciate y'all, man. T. Jones, Donnie 4, Pretty Mimi, Little G Griffith. Appreciate y'all, man. KGK 0911. Thank y'all so much for being here. It means a lot to me. Kyle Kokorski says, Tone, I understand it's just practice, but I got a good feeling about this defense. Me too. I have a really good feeling about this defense as well. I love what I've been hearing. But talk is cheap, obviously. But like you said, right? Just staying on the operative word of feeling. I do also have a good feeling about this defense. I love the competition that's been brewing. I love how everybody's being challenged. I love how the OGs are taking the young guys under their wings. I think that's really important. Achilles Gaming says Hurts has to use motion more this year. Kellen Moore's offense will not succeed without it. It's one thing Hurts has not done throughout his career. I hope he can do it. He's perfect for Philly. Yeah, here's the thing, right? If Kellen Moore wants motion, it's going to happen. It's not going to be up to Jalen Hurts, right? At the end of the day, Kellen Moore's offense has a ton of motion. There's no way Hurts is going to be able to get through this season without incorporating motions in the offense. That's a Kellen Moore decision, and Jalen Hurts has no choice but to follow suit. So I think Jalen Hurts is going to be okay with that. I think he can do it. And I agree with you, right? I love him for Philadelphia. Brian Biding says, I hate to say it. I really do think the problem with this team will be quarterback one. We'll see, Brian. We'll see. Flexing and Stepping says, defense got to prove it on the field, but so far, so good from what I'm hearing. Yeah, I'm with you on that. The bottom line is they got to prove it, but I got a feeling they're going to be good. Bang Eagles Bang says, I like how we're hitting the middle of the field. We were 31st at using the middle of the field. Yeah, you're right, man. That's been one of my pet peeves about the Eagles offense, that we never really utilized the middle of the field as much as we should have. There's so much real estate there. I know it's a challenge, but I think it's important to take advantage of the middle of the field. You never want to leave food on the table, and it makes you less predictable. That's why I'm saying that Jalen Hurts is being challenged to do things that he's never really been asked to do before, right? And this is the kind of coaching that Jalen Hurts welcomes. That's what we need to remember, right? Jalen Hurts doesn't run from the smoke. Jalen Hurts doesn't run from a challenge. He's not a guy that's going to fold. He trusts his ability to learn. He trusts his ability to continue to stack those reps. We're building this legacy. We're building this thing brick by brick, you guys. So we got to be along for the ride. Fitness Warrior says, what you should really be saying is our defense is going to be good on making plays. Yeah, right. So many people are focused on Jalen Hurts making the mistakes, but you got to keep in mind the Eagles' defensive personnel are essentially forcing those mistakes. Achilles Gaming says getting the ball out quickly has to be the basis for the offense. The RPO, read option, take too long. Teams will blitz nonstop. Need more under center snaps, play action, bootlegs, and rollouts. Yeah, they need more creativity. Bottom line, Achilles, you're right. The one thing that was lacking last year was the creativity. We had no creativity on offense. Bang Bang Eagles Bang says Bradberry needs to go, man. Just got hurt during OT. Yeah, like I'm not buying that, by the way. I was talking about it yesterday, how the Philadelphia Eagles announced that they're going to be transitioning him to safety, and all of a sudden, on the first day of mandatory minicamp, he gets hurt on like on one of the first couple plays. I'm not buying that bullshit. I think he's just nursing an injury. You know, like I'm not buying it. It's like there's a difference between being injured and being hurt. Like, get your ass up and play, man. But like I said, I don't think the Philadelphia Eagles are even making that move just so they can get him on the field. I think they're trying to up his value because he's been a hard player to probably move in the offseason. They can easily cut him and eat the $4 million on the dead cap, but they're probably thinking to themselves, hey, maybe we can flip him for something. And I think other teams are giving them a hard way to go because he's coming off of one of the worst seasons that we've ever seen at the cornerback position in Philadelphia. And I think by them adding safety to the resume, they're trying to up his stock. And I don't think he's really been too receptive to the idea of being moved to safety. And I think that's why that injury came out of nowhere. Coach Corey says, so Tone, are we saying Dallas Goedert is injury prone? You know what's funny, man? I hate throwing that on somebody's name. I really do. But if you look at the resume, he's never played a full season in his career, and he has too many seasons where he's only played what? Well, before I jump out the window and say something I'm not accurate about, let me just actually look up Dallas Goedert and say exactly what it is. So Dallas Goedert is 29 years old. He's a 7-year pro. So in 2020, he missed let's see here. All right. So in 2020, he had an ankle injury that was supposed to keep him out for 4 to 7 weeks. He had got COVID in 2021. In week 6. Okay, here it is. Okay, I get it now. So in 2020, he had an ankle injury that kept him out from weeks 4 to 7. He had got COVID in 2021 twice. He missed week 6 and he missed week 18. And in 2022, he had a shoulder injury that kept him out from week 11 and week 15. And in 2023, obviously, he had the elbow injury, the arm injury that kept him out for like 4 or 5 weeks, something like that. So Dallas Goedert has to do a better. Well, it's kind of hard to litigate injuries, but he has to do a better job at just his health, right? And in 2018, he played 16 games. In 2018, being the number 2 tight end, he played in all 16 games. In 2019, he played in 15 games. In 2020, he played in 11 games. 2021, he played in 15 games. 2022, played in 12 games. And 2023, played in 14 games. So, when you do the math, man, over the past 4 seasons, he's missed what? What is that? 3, 8, 3, 8, 11. Over the past 4 seasons, he's missed about 16 games. So over the past 4 seasons, Dallas Goedert has missed about 16 games. He's missed enough games. In other words, over the past 4 seasons, he's missed a full season. If you want to look at it from that perspective, he's missed the whole season. It's just that simple. If you do the math, he's missed the whole season. John C says, "Are you on Jacob Media anymore?" Nope, not at all, my friend. I don't work there anymore. I do not work at Jacob Media anymore. I haven't worked for them since February. Brian Biding says we need to get a tight end too. Believe it or not, I'm kind of satisfied with the tight end room right now. I think Albert O could step up. I'm curious to see. What Grant Calcaterra can do. You know what I mean? I know it's easy to say we need another tight end. I'm looking at the tight end room now. You have Dallas Goedert, CJ Uzama. Remember, we got CJ Uzama as well. Grant Calcaterra, Albert O, EJ Jenkins, and McAllen Castles. They have a lot of bodies at tight end right now. I don't see them bringing in another one. I think we're going into the season with Dallas Goedert, CJ Uzama, and Albert O as the tight ends. I think Albert O is going to beat out Grant Calcaterra. That's just my humble opinion. Kyle Kokorski, he says, Tone, my uncle says we're spoiled as Eagles fans. He remembers when Eagles fans threw snowballs at Santa Claus and chanted Alpo dog food. You know what? I ain't gonna lie, man. I hate it when people always bring up the snowballs at Santa Claus. Like, come on, come up with a new thing. That's all, man. Like, come up with a new thing. But I understand what your uncle's saying, right? I think we are spoiled. I was born in 1994, and I grew up watching Eagles football during the Donovan McNabb and Andy Reid era. That's my era of Eagles football. You know, that's what I grew up watching. But you know, you got a lot of OGs who've really been weathering the storm. You know, in the early '90s, the '80s, the '70s, '60s, so on and so forth. You got a lot of guys who really weathered that storm. So when we won that Super Bowl in 2018, I know it was like a big ass weight off their shoulders. I know those guys cried. I know I cried when we won that Super Bowl. So I can understand when Kyle Kokorski's uncle says that we're spoiled as Eagles fans. I would tend to agree. And guess what, Kyle? I don't give a fuck. I don't care about being spoiled. I don't care about it at all, baby. I don't care about being spoiled. We know what greatness looks like. We know what it's like to be at the mountaintop. You get what I'm saying? And we've also had some bad seasons sprinkled into there as well. So, it is what it is, man. I ain't mad at it. I'm not, listen, the Eagles have been a winning organization, for the past 24 years. They've won significantly more than they lost. They're always in the playoffs. Obviously only one Super Bowl to show for it, but I want more, and I believe we can get more. And I don't care if people say we spoiled. As Blunt says, Tone, let's do a 53 projection. Yeah, we can do that. We can do that because I'm going to need time to prepare for that. So, let's do it on Friday. Let's do a 53 man roster projection. Let's do that on Friday. I'll prepare my 53 players, and if you guys want, you can prepare your own, and we can talk about it on Friday. So yeah, I'm going to prepare, and we can do it on Friday because I know I've talked about that with you guys, and I don't want to, I want to be a man of my word. So let's do an early 53 man projection. Let's do an early 53 man projection. It's fun. And we'll do another one later, as we get closer to the season. We'll do another one. Chad Crawford says we need to draft the tight end high in the draft next year. Yeah, man. I don't know how high, but I'm not opposed to the Eagles drafting a tight end. JDM Life says, where can I go to see our full roster? So this is where I go. I go to Our Lads. I use ourlads.com. So this is what I use. I think Our Lads has some of the most accurate roster listing, some of the most accurate depth charts in the NFL. I love this website. Ourlads.com. This is what I use, JD in life. So it's pretty accurate, and they do a pretty good job at designating who's rookies, who's unsigned franchise, things like that. And yeah, I think this is the best thing. This has every player on the roster. This is every single player on the Eagles roster right here. Special teams, reserves. This is every single player on the roster. So this is what I use every time I look up the Philadelphia Eagles personnel. Brian Biding says I marked them on my calendar on Friday. Yeah, let's do it. We're going to do a 53 a way too early 53-man roster projection. Let's do that. I'll prepare everything. I'll prepare myself for Friday, and we'll do that. Make sure I have a day in between to get that stuff done. All right. Before I get out of here, I do want to go over some of the practice notes from mandatory minicamp today. Let me get this up on the screen here for you guys. Give me one moment. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, let me zoom in. It's a little small. Okay. All right. So, see if I can make it bigger. All right, there we go. So these are the practice notes from Eagles mandatory minicamp. Let's go over this, okay? So here are some injury updates. And also, by the way, this was written by Brandon Lee Gouton of Bleeding Green Nation. I want to give him his credit. I think he does a good job covering the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm a Brandon Lee Gouton fan. I think he always has a good perspective. I've always listened to him on Birds 365 with Jody Mack and John McMullen. So I've always been a fan of his perspective. But yeah, these practice notes are by way of Brandon Lee Gouton of Bleeding Green Nation. All right, so it says here the Philadelphia Eagles held the second of 3 mandatory minicamp practices on Wednesday afternoon, and he was at the NovaCare complex to watch the action unfold. Here's what he saw. So, as far as injury updates, James Bradberry watched practice from the sidelines after apparently getting banged up just minutes into Tuesday's session. And there's a new injury as well. Trevor Keegan did not practice. The new rookie, the right guard out of Michigan. Sidney Brown and Jacob Harris are still not practicing. Sidney Brown is obviously recovering from the torn ACL. John Ross, he got stretched out by a trainer on the sideline after making a catch late in the practice. So maybe it's a cramp, maybe a little tightness in the hamstring. You never know. But John Ross, he was limited today. Just getting some extra work on the sideline with the trainer. Depth chart notes. As far as the secondary, Isaiah Rodgers began practice as the first team cornerback across from Darius Slay. Kelee Ringo and Quinyon Mitchell rotated in at right cornerback with the starters in 7-on-7. Before Rodgers took back over as the starter in 11-on-11. So I'll read that again. Isaiah Rodgers began practice as the first team cornerback across from Darius Slay, while Kelee Ringo and Quinyon Mitchell rotated in at right cornerback with the starters in 7-on-7 before Isaiah Rodgers took back over as the starter in 11-on-11. Again, there appears to be a very real competition for the spot across from Slay. Mitchell also saw more first-team reps as a dime linebacker. Cooper DeJean saw some first-team nickel action in addition to playing outside with the second team. That's really interesting to hear, right? I think guys like Isaiah Rodgers, guys like Quinyon Mitchell, Kelee Ringo, there's a real competition for that position next to Darius Slay. And if you notice, we've never heard James Bradberry's name in this conversation at all. I think James Bradberry is as good as gone. I don't think he's going to settle for that safety spot in Philadelphia. I think that's a smokescreen. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are just trying to up his stock so they can trade him somewhere if they can. And if not, they're going to cut him. And it's only going to be a $4 million dead cap hit. $4 million is a lot to me, not a lot to them. But obviously we're in two different lines of business. So yeah, again, there appears to be a very real competition for the cornerback spot across from Slay. Quinyon Mitchell also saw more first-team reps as a dime linebacker. Cooper DeJean saw some first-team nickel action in addition to playing outside with the second team. Also, depth when it comes to the linebackers, Zach Bond and Devin White were mostly the first-team linebackers once again. Nakobe Dean largely worked with the second team, though the pairing of him and Brandon Smith got a couple of reps with the starters. Dean and Smith are the smallest and bigger linebackers, respectively, on the team. Maybe the coaching staff likes keeping them together. So I've been telling you guys, not once have we seen Nakobe Dean starting or starting OTAs or starting mandatory minicamp at the first team. Zach Bond and Devin White have been the primary linebackers on first team. And so far, we heard from Zach Bond and Devin White during the press conferences. We have not heard from Nakobe Dean. I think that says something. I'm not going to act like it means nothing. As far as the offensive line, Mekhi Becton was the first team left guard again. So wow, they're not only cross training Mekhi Becton at right guard, but they're also cross training him at left guard as well. That's fascinating to me. Mekhi Becton is being cross trained at left guard, right guard, and right tackle. They're really throwing it at him right now. Some more depth chart notes about the pass catchers. John Ross saw some action with the starters and caught at least one Hurts throw. Grant Calcaterra was the tight end too, and also caught a pass from Jalen Hurts. And here's an update on Jalen Hurts. We kind of talked about this earlier. So Jalen Hurts was up and down. The good first. Hurts started 7-on-7 with a completion to A.J. Brown on an out route, that being their bread and butter connection. Hurts hit Brown and Devontae Smith multiple times for short completions. But there's been a lot of short stuff this spring. Hurts had another short connection with Paris Campbell. Hurts to AJ Brown on the slant went for at least 10. Hurts to AJ Brown on the slant went for at least a 10-yard completion right in front of Reed Blankenship. Now here's the bad, you guys. Jalen Hurts threw an interception right to Reed Blankenship on the target meant for Devontae Smith. He had another pick dropped. Jalen Hurts overthrew Devontae Smith on a crossing pattern to the left. Hurts also overthrew Brown and Dallas Goedert on downfield attempts. Jalen Hurts hasn't been sharp when it comes to passes over 20 yards. Moving on, Blankenship also had a pass breakup to pair with his interception. Just like last year, he's been popping in practice. Brandon Lee Gowton says that he believes that a lot of people seem to be too down on Reed Blankenship's outlook after last season's struggles later in the year. And, with him being healthier, it should make a difference for him. Remember, Reed Blankenship also got an extension with the Philadelphia Eagles, and he was recently dubbed the Eagles' most underappreciated player. Yeah, Reed Blankenship is a guy that doesn't really get talked about that much, and we tend to overlook him because overall the team really fell off a cliff last year. I think Reed Blankenship, man, he's somebody to watch. We'll see how things go. I like Reed Blankenship. I don't really know what his ceiling is quite yet. I think we're going to know definitively what his ceiling is this year. As far as the kick return updates, it says here the Eagles practiced the NFL's new kickoff format for the first time in front of media. Tyrion Davis-Price, Brent Covey, Anaya Smith, Kenny Gainwell, Isaiah Rodgers, Will Shipley, and John Ross all took kick return reps. C.J. Gardner-Johnson was also hanging out with the returners. Kenny Pickett had a good pass on the opposite hash throw to John Ross for about 8 yards. John Ross has been a common target for Pickett since signing last week. John Ross made a good one-handed snag on a Pickett throw that was a little wider than it ideally should have been. John Ross is off to a good start when it comes to pushing for a roster spot and playing time. Kelee Ringo also knocked down a Kenny Pickett pass intended for John Ross outside of the numbers. He's been very sticky in coverage. Like I said, Kelee Ringo is really making strides. A.J. Brown has noticed. All these guys have noticed. Darius Slay. Saquon Barkley had a couple catches, but they were check downs in the flat. Haven't really seen the Eagles utilize their backs as pass catchers between the numbers at all, even as a dump-off option. Isaiah Rodgers has shown his ability to break on the ball. He looks really explosive. Quinyon Mitchell had tight coverage on a short Hurts completion to Grant Calcaterra. Cooper DeJean nearly made a one-handed pick on a Hurts throw in the flat. DeJean's teammates liked that one. Multiple players came over to praise him. Devin White continues to flash in practice. He sacked, quote-unquote, Hurts on a blitz. They can't really touch the quarterback, but if they were able to touch the quarterback, it would have counted as a sack. Fred Johnson, who's the backup left tackle, he lined up at left tackle. He got bowled over by Jalen Hunt. Fred Johnson may have tripped to make it look worse than what it really was, but he can't really say with certainty. But Jalen Hunt made a play. Will Shipley had his best practice by far yesterday. Yesterday, Brandon Lee Gowton meant to include a note about how he looked pretty unnatural and uncomfortable catching the ball out of the backfield. That changed today as he was targeted often and caught all the passes that came his way. One of those included a catch along the sideline after a scramble and rollout by Tanner McKee. It was nice to see Shipley step up. Um, Also, it's been a relatively quiet spring for Johnny Wilson, but the 6th-round rookie showed up today. He made a tough catch on a comeback while facing tight coverage from Keely Ringo. Tanner McKee made one of the best throws Brandon Lee Gowton has seen this spring. He managed to hit Johnny Wilson in rhythm exactly as the receiver left his break and turned around for a ball to set up a fluid catch and run for about 20 yards. Kenny Gainwell had a short pass go right through his hands. Not good for him. Eli Ricks had a bad loss to give up a catch to tryout player Griffin Herbert. Not good for Eli Ricks either. And undrafted free agent running back Kendall Milton took a swing pass from McKee to the house. He looks fast for a big guy. Um, uh, Also, some other notes here. Brandon Lee Gowton says it's kind of hard to contextualize the frequency relative to practices in previous years, but he's definitely noticed safeties rotating right before the snap in an effort to disguise coverages. Villanova alumnus Jalen Brunson was wearing a Wawa hat and he attended today's practice today. So those are pretty much the notes here as it pertains to Eagles training camp or mandatory minicamp rather. I really appreciate you guys for locking in on the show. We're going to get out of here. Let me hit some of your comments real quick before we go. So, my man William Galbraith, what's good, my man? Hope all is well. I appreciate you for being here. Brian Biding says, "Hey Tone, so far, who's the weakest link?" Ooh, that's a good question. It's kind of hard to say. Do you have like offense, defense? Like, where do you want to go with that? Where do you want to go with that? Because it's kind of hard to really say who's the weakest link right now. You got to you got to give me a little bit of a smaller sample size. Linebacker, defense, safety. Like you got to give me a little bit more to work with than that. Flexing and stepping said throwing them picks not good. Yeah, it's not good. But again, I think he's working some things out. Brian Biding says anywhere. I want to be careful about who I say because I don't want people to think I'm just like talking shit or whatever. But hold on one second. Shout out to my man William Galbraith with the $10 donation. Thank you, William. I really appreciate the donation. It means a lot to me. I'm going to leave this on the screen for a while if you don't mind. I really appreciate the love that you've been providing to the show, and thank you so much for investing. But as far as the weakest link, Brian, oh man, if I had this, okay, I'll give you one on both sides of the ball, right? How about that? I'll give you on offense. On offense, if I say a weakest link, don't rush me, Brian. Don't rush me. If I gave you a weak link on defense, I'd probably have to say Nakobe Dean. I'll probably have to say Nakobe Dean right now is the weakest link. I don't think it's really that simple, but I'll say it. I'll say Nakobe Dean on defense. And on offense, I might say maybe Kenny Gainwell. I might say Tyler Steen, only because Tyler Steen still has a lot to prove at right guard, in my humble opinion. That's just me being honest. So yeah, on offense, I'll say Kenny Gainwell, Tyler Steen. Tyler Steen has a ton to prove at right guard still. Nakobe Dean on defense, I'll say that. On defense. If I give you another guy on defense, I might have to say I don't think it's fair to say Brandon Graham. I don't think that's fair. He's an OG. He's in his 15th season. I don't expect much out of him. Yeah, I think I'll stop there. Yeah. But thank you again. Thank you so much, William, for donating to the channel, man. I really appreciate it. And also thank you, Brian, for asking that question. I think that's an important question to think about because you're only as good as your worst player. So I think that's a good question. Achilles Gaming says, so Bond has been with the number ones more than Dean. Absolutely, Achilles. Absolutely. Zach Bond has been getting the primary reps. Zach Bond has been getting the primary reps next to Devin White. You know, like that's the reality. You know, Zach Bond, he's been at the podium with Devin White. You know, it's the reality, bro. Zach Bond has been getting more first team reps than Nakobe Dean. It goes without question. It goes without question. Kyle Kokorski says, on offense, I think the weak link is Jalen Hurts right now. You know, to each his own. I think I disagree with that, but to each his own. I respect your opinion, though, Kyle. Brian Biding says we have to watch the training staff. We are practicing. We are practicing way more. Thank God. Yeah, I agree with that, man. I'm so glad they're practicing more as well. Just gotta stay healthy, right? But yeah, all right. I'm gonna get out of here. You guys. I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support you guys are always giving to the channel. You guys are tremendous supporters of the show. I really do appreciate the way you guys have invested in the channel as well. I want to give a huge shout out to William Galbraith for donating to the channel, my OG S Blunt for donating to the channel, and I also want to shout out Fat Mac Philly for being a new subscriber, a new listener, a new viewer, and donating on his first time here. I really do appreciate you being here, Fat Mac, and I hope that you really enjoyed the show. I hope all of you guys enjoyed the show. You guys are awesome. You guys are tremendous. And I do not take this for granted. So again, I'm going to be live again tomorrow around the same time. I'm going to be live between 7 and 8 p.m. 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time, right? So look for me around that time, okay? Check me out between around 7 to 8 p.m. You know, I can't really give you an exact time because, you know, I got stuff going on. So I'm always the content's going to keep coming, but I can't give you an exact time. And also I've been dealing with this puppy. So you know, it's going to be it's hard for me kind of to lock in times. But regardless though, I'm definitely going to be giving you guys the content. And I appreciate you guys for always locking in and for always being loyal supporters of the channel. You guys are tremendous. So I'm going to get out of here. I've been your humble host, Tone DeShields II. You guys have been locked in on your dose of Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game.